Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. We're here today with episode 1732 of the Cabral Concept, going over our weekly Mindset and Motivation Monday. As I always say, one of my favorite shows of the week, and that is because we can't go a day and certainly not a week without inspiration in our life. Too many of us are not living by the standards in our life that we actually set for ourselves. We are constantly living by someone else's approval of us, someone else's standard, someone else's viewpoint of how we should be living our life. So what I want to share with you today is how to take back a little bit more of your life, how to live a little less by other people's standards, and really create your own so that you live a life with a lot more meaning, living by a lot more passion and purpose, which will ultimately lead to more happiness in your life. So the first key takeaway that I want to share with you today is something called pluralistic ignorance. Now, the reason why I want to teach you this today is because I don't want our Mindset and Motivation Monday shows to just be about inspiration. I hope that you are inspired from these shows. I get inspired teaching this material, trying to live it in my own life, but I also want you to be, I would say, educated in the process, to always be learning, to always be growing, and that's what we're going to share with you in the show today. So the first key takeaway that I want to share with you is something called pluralistic ignorance. Why does this matter? Well, pluralistic ignorance is something that we absolutely all suffer from, and that is this belief, and basically it's shared by many, many people, but we begin to look at the outside world differently than it really is. And let me give you an example in a minute, but I want to give you the actual definition of pluralistic ignorance. In social psychology, pluralistic ignorance is a situation in which a majority of group members privately reject a norm, meaning they don't tell anybody, just privately in their own life, they reject a norm, but go along with it because they assume incorrectly that most others accept it. This is also described as no one believes, but everyone thinks that everyone believes. So this is absolutely playing out again, now more than ever in all sorts of different parts of our life. But one of them is for sure social media. So when you're looking at other people's accounts and you're looking at other people's posts, for the most part, people are showing you the absolute best of their life. There's no doubt about it, meaning like there's actual sets now designed so that people can go on a set with a private jet or with a fancy car or whatever it might be. And you're like, wow, that person's doing so well. But really, they're fooling you into believing that they have something in their life that they don't, but also that really anyone can and should have at a moment's notice. Now, I'm a big believer in The Magic of Thinking Big, a great book that everybody out there should read. But let's talk about that. We need to believe, we need to dream big, but we also have to understand it's not like, oh, it just comes out of nowhere. It just doesn't happen. It actually happens for very predictable reasons. And those predictable reasons have to do with what standards do you hold for yourself. If you don't hold yourself in high regards, if you don't have high standards for what you need to do in a given day, it's unlikely, fair or unfair, that the end result, your dreams, your goals are most likely going to happen if you are not consciously believing and working towards them. But let's go back to the social media just for a moment, because too many people get down on themselves, also saying like, all of these people are living these great lives, yet I'm not. But even if you were to look at that same person on social media who posted that, the reason why they're trying to show you the best part of their day is, well, one of two reasons. One, they're trying to inspire themselves, right? They're trying to inspire themselves to be better. There's no doubt about that, and that's why a lot of people do it. There's a big part of that. Or the second is that they are trying to trick others to believing they are living right now the life of their dreams, right? So that's a big part of it, but they themselves know it's not true. They also look at other people's accounts saying, well, this is why I have to do it. Look at them, they're living this great life. And it's this circle, right? It's this circle of people using all sorts of filters on their photographs and all sorts of stages and sets, and they're going out and they're taking a vacation just based on where they can take the best photos for Instagram. And that is not a real life. It's really not. And I want you to want more for yourself. But also, I want you to lead a life that's going to create greater levels of happiness, like deep levels of happiness, so that when you walk off the set, you get to take the happiness with you, right? When those people stop that set, stop those filters, whatever it might be, they go back to the regular life. I want your regular life to be amazing. That's the goal. So the way that we're going to get there is creating certain standards for ourselves. Now, again, we have to go back to when you were younger, your parents created certain standards for you, or grandparents, or whoever your primary caretaker was, or teachers, whatever it might be. And oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, it's well-meaning, but it's not your life. So if your parents wanted you to get into a certain profession or do really well for yourself financially or whatever it might be, that's their set of standards that they put on you. Now, we also absorb this through osmosis through the first 8 years of our life. I mean, we observe it, and of course, and start to let it get infused into our mind and body over many years. Some say up to the age of 25. But I'll tell you that where there's no real gate, right? There's no real filter. Until the age of 8, we see and we absorb. So we're basically taking in our outside world. And that's the reason is that your parents can teach you and whatever it might be. And that's fine. But there's no way you would have been able to survive by teachings alone. So what your subconscious mind does is it's basically keeping track of everything around you. It's seeing how your parents are reacting, your grandparents, those people in your city, your culture, even TV, all the things that you're exposed to, that's being filtered into your brain. And then your brain saying, okay, we've got it. Okay, this is how we respond. And again, those are creating subconscious thoughts, beliefs, feelings, and it's becoming our standards. Like that's how life is supposed to be lived. But at some point we need to decide, are we okay with our parent standards for what we should be? Are we okay with our communities, our maybe spouses, our children, whatever it might be? Like, are we okay with those standards? Because at any point in your life, whether it's 20 years old or 60 years old, you can change. Like at any point in your life, it's your decision to say, hey, today's going to be the day. Maybe I don't change overnight with the snap of my fingers, but over time, I plan to work on me. And here's what I want to become. And here's what I want to achieve. And in order to achieve those goals, this is the steps that I need to take, right? I need to become the person that is literally worthy of achieving these goals. When you see someone, a person in the real world, right, who's achieved a certain level of success, whether it be, again, relationships or finance, career, health, body, whatever it is. Again, there's always genetic blessings. There's no doubt about it, right? Like some people are just really gifted in math and they do great in finance, or some people are just more of that Vata body type and they lose weight a whole lot easier. So there's always that part to it. But let's look at the majority of the world, right? We always kind of like look at the outliers and say, oh, look at them. Well, if we're always going to be frustrated if we're looking at the fringe, right? If we're looking at the outliers where it comes easy to them. But for most of us, for the great majority of the population, we have to work at achieving whatever it is that we want. And if you look at the people who are successful, you can say, oh, they did this, they continue working on this, they didn't do well at this, they worked on this, they tweaked it, they got better, they moved forward. And that's eventually how they achieved what they have today. And in order to achieve what they had today is they still haven't stopped, right? So it's kind of one of those things where I didn't really know the day that it happened, but I went from being someone that was much more frustrated and just way more stressed out to being someone that really enjoyed life, that really enjoyed the teaching that I do, being able to formulate, being able to read labs, being able to do this podcast, now being able to do video. These are all things that I love to do. Now, I was able to do those before. It's not like I wasn't, but there was a certain switch that was able to be clicked, right? It was able to be turned on. But I had been working on that for a number of years. And it's not like it wasn't working, it wasn't working, it wasn't working. It was like it was working, then it wasn't working, then it wasn't, and I'd fall back a little bit, but I'd step forward. And that's basically the achievement-based process. But what I don't want to do today is ever to slide backwards in my own health and in my own happiness. It's kind of like my health is my body, my happiness is my mind. We kind of look at the two connected. And so there are certain things that I have to do in order to keep those going. And in order to keep those activities going, I have to have certain standards that I've set for myself, which means that I'm not going to sleep in until 10 o'clock. Again, I'm not telling you what to do for your life or not, because maybe you like to work later, like whatever works for your schedule. But I'm not going to do that, right? I'm not going to sleep in and waste those valuable hours in the morning. I'm also not going to make sure, let's not use a double negative here. I'm going to make sure that I'm around for my children. I'm going to make sure that as much as I want to do in my work, as much as I want to create, and as much as I want to achieve, I need to make sure that I am home and present for my two girls. They're very young right now. I want to make sure that I'm with them for those really precious years that go by quickly. So these are certain standards that I've created for myself that I'm always trying to balance in every year of my life. So like, in order to be successful, let's say in career, typically you're putting in hours, you're creating certain things, whatever it might be. And then for family life, well, you need to put in the hours there. That's why it's always a little bit of a struggle, but it's about balance, right? It's about saying, okay, what area needs a little bit more for these couple of weeks? Okay, then we're going to shift back to this, then we're going to stay balanced a little bit more. And we're always looking at those different parts of our life that need a little bit more love. So the standards that I want you to look out for is, first and foremost, make sure that you're never comparing yourself to other people, okay? Whether they're in the same field as you, whether they have the same body type as you, the same upbringing, not the same upbringing, same type of relationship, whatever it might be. Never compare, because you are your own unique individual. So you're your own unique individual, can't compare yourself to especially someone else's after, right? Like you right now might be the before, and that's good because everybody has a before. I certainly had a before. There's no doubt about that. Here's my after now. And in 10 years from now, this will be my before where I'm at right now, and then that'll be my after. So just remember, like this is a ladder, right? We are constantly trying to climb up the rungs of this ladder. Not from an ego standpoint, not from an obsession with doing more or having to do more, but simply wanting to be more, wanting to be better for ourselves and for others, right? If you are more, you're going to be able to give more to others. That's what I've always found. Like if I am more, if I figure out how to do more, if I figure out how to learn more, I can absolutely share more, teach more, and I'm happier because of that as well. So first and foremost, never compare yourself to others. But second, do follow the formulas of understanding that in order for you to get to your goal, you must hold yourself to certain standards. And those standards are the thoughts, feelings, actions that make up your life. And you might say, well, I'm not ready yet to be able to control all my thoughts or my feelings. Okay, start with the actions. So your standards would be, again, like for me, I don't let myself sleep into 10 o'clock in the morning, even on the weekend. So here's why. It's because I like to wake up 1 hour before the rest of my family. And that's because I like that 1 hour as me time to be able to work on myself, to be able to do all of the things really that I enjoy, whether it be reading or some meditation or some work before the rest of the family gets up, like whatever it might be, okay? That's my time. And then when the family gets up, okay, now it starts to be their time. But if I get a little bit of my time, I'm better than for them. So that's just one of my standards. The second is this: I need to be at my desk working at a certain time every single morning. And that's because I don't want to work late into the night, because if I work late into the night, it breaks another one of my standards, which is being home at time to be able to hang out with my daughters and to be able to be there for dinner at night. So these are certain standards that I have, and I've gotten better at them as well over the years. So when I first opened my practice many years ago, I had one daughter at the time. I was not able to be home every night for dinner. I was starting a brand new practice. I was working a lot of hours, all of those things, but my goal was always to get here. And now I'm here. So it's one of those things that we continue to get better at. So your standards have to be, I'm saying to myself, I'm not going to work past X o'clock at night. You can choose your own hour. I don't want to sway you in one way or the other. And then because of that, I know the amount of work that I have to get done. So that means then I need to start at a certain time in the morning in order to be able to get those hours in. And then I have to go to bed by a certain bedtime in order to wake up 1 hour before my family. So you can start to see that this plan will begin to write itself when you know what it is that you want to achieve. And that's so important. That is why I urge you to just choose one goal for now. Just choose one thing. And I always say, try to do that one thing, like move towards that one thing as a goal by completing some actions first thing in the morning. I mean, the easy one is this. Hey, if your goal is to lose weight and transform your body, you can absolutely move that body for 20 to 30 minutes pretty early in the morning, and you can create your meals for that day, right? If you create your breakfast at home and your lunch at home for that day, then the only meal that you need to worry about is dinner. And if you have a spouse, you have a family, you let them know, listen, I'm going to eat the veggies that you cook. I'm going to eat the whatever it might be. I'm just not going to eat more of the processed food right now. And so they just say, you don't have to make anything special for me, whatever it might be. Here's what I'm going to do. But you can get done a lot of what you need to get done in that first hour, or even if you only have a half hour. 20-minute workout extra, good. 10 minutes, get your food prepped for the day. And again, if you don't think that you can make a smoothie in 10 minutes and pop some veggies and some hemp parts and some olive oil like that to make an easy lunch that's inexpensive, you can. Absolutely. Check out my previous podcasts on how to basically set up your meals for the day, what I eat in a day, the foundation of all diets, all that great stuff. Super simple, inexpensive, and absolutely linked to health and longevity. So that's just one example. But I mean, let's say relationships is one of your big ones. Well, okay, what are we going to do? Maybe you do something nice for your partner, your spouse, whoever it might be, first thing in the morning. Maybe you set alarms on your phone to check in during the day. And then what about at night? You try to get home a little bit earlier so you can have dinner together, maybe make dinner together. And then you spend some time together after dinner, right? Like all of these things we can prioritize if we know what our goal is. And then we can start to set those standards for what we need to do in order to achieve those things. And maybe it's not every day. Like even to lose weight, you don't need to exercise every day, just more days than not. So maybe it's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Wednesdays and the weekends are off, right? Like you can design a schedule that's going to allow you to move light years ahead with not a lot of extra time. But you have to decide and you need to create your own standards. And again, once you know what you want, well, then you can begin again, I always say the plan will begin to write itself, or feel free to copy someone else's plan, protocol, etc. for right now. I also want to share this with you, and that is because when people talk about setting big goals, and it kind of sounds like a lot sometimes, right? Like you want to achieve these big things, you want to do this, you want to do that, it's really about living the life to the fullest. So some people say, well, I want to live my best life. Oh, well, that's kind of vague. Like what exactly does that mean? It's a nice term, but what exactly does it mean? I like to say, live life to the fullest. So the truth is that we typically waste somewhere between 4 and 6 hours a day. And definitely check out my previous Mindset and Motivation Monday on those missing 6 hours a day. I think it will really bring to light how much more time that you have than you think you do. Some of it's spent on YouTube or social media or Facebook or Instagram posts or just scrolling through the news or Twitter feeds. Like some of it's that. Some of it is just kind of taking your time, just kind of moving slowly when you could choose to do more. Like that's the thing. So it's not about doing more for the sake of doing more. It's just if you have goals, and many people listening to this show have goals they've set for themselves, it's really about achieving those goals, but not for the sake of achieving the goals. It's about living life to the fullest. And when you live life to the fullest, you feel like you're achieving more, that you are living your purpose, and that like your life does matter. That's such a big part of it because ultimately, we're all looking for a sense of happiness. We're all looking to, find whatever it is at the end of that rainbow, right? Well, we often overlook, though, the fact that every day is not going to be like lying in a bed of roses, right? We tend to forget that on many of those days, we get pricked by some of those thorns, but we still need to move forward through the day anyways, because the majority of the days, if we're living our purpose, if we're following through to our goals, not saying that we've achieved them yet, but we are in the acts of moving towards them, we're going to enjoy a whole lot more happiness. Why? Well, we felt that hour mattered, that day mattered, and over time, that week mattered, that month mattered, that year mattered, and our life mattered. If we do things that matter to us, Oftentimes, when we're looking to achieve our goal, we're going to have a life that ultimately leads to more happiness. So hopefully this was helpful today. The goal, as I always said, is this. The goal is always happiness, but you have to understand is that happiness is not elusive. There are ways to work towards it. Begin to grow, begin to take actions towards that growth, set great goals for yourself, and of course, always teach. Share this information with anyone else you believe it could serve. Thanks so much. Take care. Have an amazing day. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp parts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stevencabral.com/resources.